This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we watch sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between.
This week, The Tripods, Season 2, Episodes 10 and 12.
Should be enough oxygen here for you to survive the tunnel.
Oh, come on, what about you?
I'm staying.
What?
I have far too good a position here, provided they don't associate me with the disappearance of these three. But you're supposed to be dead.
It'd be dangerous for you now.
Yes, but the advantage of having someone in the inside until you come back with help, that far outweighs the danger.
I don't envy you staying behind.
Take care on your way back to Julius.
Thanks, Fritz.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast joining the circus. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
You know, I was watching this with someone, and we were discussing how you were really enjoying it, and I was not enjoying it. And they said to me that they're worried about your mental well-being if you're enjoying this show.
It's a fun show.
Yeah, that's what they were worried about. Comments like that.
Oh, people have lost their sense of adventure.
Maybe that's what it is.
I mean, you watched Dial of Destiny, which is worse.
That's a good question. You'll have to ask me in 6 months which one I remember.
I bet you it's the Tripods.
You might be right. You could very well be right. It very few scenes in that Indiana Jones movie did a tripod step on him.
How many tentacle monsters were there?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jordan, before we get into this final episode on the Tripods, why don't we discuss recasting the series as a major motion picture, a la Dial of Destiny. We're going to make this a big franchise. It's starting. I'll be honest, I am, having watched just even the 9 episodes or whatever we've watched of this, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 11, I don't remember. I am surprised this is not a rebooted franchise. Like, this feels ready to go for the YA craze.
I would agree with you. It has all of the tropes that I think people like in these sort of books. It has the potential for adventure and all the sort of things I think people like in this genre. It's just, you'll see what my casting is. I think there needs to be some adjustments to really make it hit, you know?
I mean, we got to modernize it, that's for sure.
They have to be, I don't know, those little wristband things they have to be more like Apple Watches.
They have to be like a smartphone, and it has to be a commentary on how kids look at TikTok.
That's right. That's exactly. We need more commentary in movies. That's what people like.
All right, Jordan. Well, of course, we've got our lead, Will Parker. We'll start there with that character. I've got 2 choices. I assume you have 2 choices, but I'm not sure.
I have 2 for this and pretty much 1 for all the rest of them. And I'll say off the bat, I have difficulty casting these young movies because I don't know who the young stars are. So there's a lot of me Googling and then looking at people's names. It's like, it's Colton Whitehead. And I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are.
See, and I know for you it's hard, and you say it for these young stars, and by young stars you mean anyone under 42 is difficult for you to cast. And we're asking to cast 16-year-olds, so it's even harder for you.
Yeah, like literally yesterday I watched Barefoot in the Park with Robert Redford. I have no idea who these kids are.
All right, Jen. Well, let's start with Will Parker then. Who did you have for that role for casting?
The first thing, I think, to modernize it a la most of these, I think you need a female lead. And so I've changed Will to Willa. Could still be Will, I guess. People like having like, what do they name the woman in Star Trek? They're like, Michael Barnum, but it's a woman. You're like, great. So that sort of thing. So this is still
You
Will.
punched your TV, right? You were so furious about that name.
That wasn't what I was furious about. I was furious about how terrible the show was. I could care less about her. And I have 2 actors. Now, I don't know them very well, but I figured they're going to be big stars because they're Disney people. And the first one is in an upcoming Snow White, because I was just reading about that. So, because you know how Disney loves their IPs and regurgitating them. So there's an actress named Rachel Zegler, and she's going to be the new Snow White. So that was my first pick.
Okay. So they're going young for Snow White, huh?
Mm-hmm. I think she's like a mid to late teen. I couldn't tell you. She might be 55 years old. I can't tell you.
Anywhere between 41 and 13.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, I went with Canadian child star Jacob Tremblay from The Room.
You know what's funny? I looked at him too, and I was just like, is he still a thing? Do people still like him?
Sure, why not? He's Jacob Tremblay.
I suppose.
Star of the Room, Bad Boys, maybe a show called Bad Boys or Naughty Boys. Might have been in a Predator movie.
Naughty Boys. I hope that's what the movie's called.
I'm not going to look it up, so we'll never know.
No, I won't either. Okay, so those are both pretty good. So I'll give you my second. So either we're gonna gender swap this or not. But I was sticking with my Willa character, and then also the exact same Disney IP idea is from The Little Mermaid, which apparently the actress name is Halle Berry. There's 2 Halle Berrys now.
Is her name Halle Berry?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Halle and then Bailey, Baile.
Haley Bailey.
Haley Bailey, excuse me, not what's the other one?
Barry, Halle Berry.
You're exactly right. I just read it as Halle Berry. It's Halle Bailey. So it's not the same name. Oh, see, there you go. That's why I shouldn't cast young people.
Okay, so she's a little more. Is she? I feel like she's older than 16, though. I guess it doesn't matter, but
It doesn't matter. People have been playing. I mean, people have been. Like, remember 90210? These kids were like 30.
Well, I've cast a 16-year-old in the role here, but I've also done a little gender swap for this because I agree. I think any of these characters can be any gender. It doesn't really matter. None of the plot mechanisms facilitated anything.
Well, the characters are so two-dimensional. You could make them anything you want to be.
I went with a young woman named Priya Ferguson. You might remember her from Stranger Things. She plays the little sister of one of the brothers in that, and whose name I forget, but she's what, I got her name written down here. Maybe no, I don't. Sorry, but I don't know if you watched the later seasons. She's a real gem in the later seasons who really steals the screen.
I wasn't familiar. I stopped watching that show at a certain point because I was like, they're still making it. But I think you know these people better than I do. I'm literally just looking through IPs here.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, I'm not taking a risk on someone who's playing Snow White in movies that's not released yet. Because, no offense, but a lot of those people who did those live-action remakes, it didn't work out for many of them.
I think because no one really wants these movies other than Disney.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're star-making vehicles. It just seems like people get the roles like, congratulations, you're now this Disney character. And they're like, great. And it's like, that's the last movie they make.
Yeah, you might be right.
Sorry. I think the Disney IP thing, I'm taking it off the table.
Okay, so we're gonna go with, what was her name? Priya something?
Yeah, let's throw Jacob Tremblay to the wolves. You think he's done? You think he's washed up?
He's washed up. He's so 2019, or I don't know.
I mean, people love that Stranger Things, so I think we'll put Priya Ferguson in the main role. It'll bring a little more energy to that Will character. I think it could use a little energy.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and then we've got Henry Parker, Cousin Henry.
Okay, I've only got one pick, and it's the kid. He was in It. It seems like there's only a few things you could really pop of shows that were maybe star-making sort of things, as you were saying. So this kid, Jaden Martell, his name is, and he was in It. He was one of the kids in It.
Which one?
One of the ones with brown hair.
Okay, you didn't look any further than that. Got it.
I recognize his face. I mean, you could look it up. I don't know which one he played.
What are the characters from It? Just tell me what character you play.
I'll look it up. I don't know.
Was he the main one?
Yeah, I think he was the main one. Yeah.
Tall, gangly kid.
Bill Denenborough. That was the role.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the main kid. Got it.
Yeah.
Played by the older version by, what's his name? The guy from Split and maybe an X-Men movie.
Oh, really? Honestly, I don't even remember those movies.
All right, I've got two choices here for you. Again, I've got this first one is a kid named Woody Norman, who I don't know if you've seen this film, but he was the he's Joaquin Phoenix's son in the film Come On, Come On from last year.
I never saw it.
It's by all apparent reviews, an all right little film. I also haven't seen it, so I can't tell you one way or the other. He's got a good head of hair, though.
I was just about to say that. I just was Googling it as you were saying, and he's a real pile of hair, and he looks very young here, but as things go on, I don't know how old these photos are, so they may be from like 5 years ago.
And then I've got the child lead of Dr. Sleep, Kylie Curran. You remember her? She's the one with the Shining, who Old Man Shining has to protect. Who, Ewan McGregor, right? Is that right? Ewan McGregor?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you like that movie. I didn't like the movie. Why don't we go with her?
Sure, let's go with her. I think she was good in that movie. I thought the kid in that movie actually did a pretty good job.
Yeah, she was better than the movie was.
And then, of course, we've got Beanpole, a.k.a. Jean-Paul.
Right. Now, I don't love my pick because I think I've picked this kid before. It's the kid from Stranger Things, that Finn Wolfhard. And the only
Oh,
reason
yeah,
I picked
yeah.
him is because every time I see a picture of him, he seems to be getting taller and ganglier. And I thought, well, that's good for Beanpole. So that was my
That is
reasoning
true.
behind
That
it.
is true. But he's what, like 25 right now?
I know he's probably way too old, but every time I see him, I'm like, geez, he's gotten tall. I was like, he's a real Beanpole. Am I right?
He did get very tall, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he's got to be like 7 feet tall.
All right, well, I've got two choices again here. I don't know if you'll know this kid. I don't know if you watched the show, but if you'd watched Raised by Wolves, the HBO show, it's a kid named Winta McGrath who he's not as tall, but he's got a real look to him.
He's also got a head of hair, long hair.
And then my other option was young Sheldon himself, Ian Armitage.
No, he doesn't need any more money. He's fine.
Okay, no young Sheldon. We won't typecast this as a young Sheldon type.
Yeah. I kind of like the look of this Winter McGrath kid.
We can get someone with crazy hair in it at least.
I'm like a casting agent in the background. Like, we don't see anything. I'm like, I like the look of this kid. Let's put them up for the role. Let's go with them.
All right. Well, we can move on to the adult roles now, so you'll be a little more comfortable in this arena.
Yeah, I am.
We decided to include Ozymandias. It's a little bit of a smaller role. He's going to come in at the beginning. He's going to come at the end of the first movie. This is going to be your like stunt casting a little bit. But who did you have in mind for Ozymandias?
I went in a completely different direction because I think this character needs more personality. They need to be visually more interesting, and so I went with Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Okay, he's very old. I guess that could work.
Yeah. I think it's perfect.
It's maybe you've made it creepier to have him asking for uncapped boys, but okie dokie.
Yeah, because that could be creepier. That could be much, much creepier. I think the general idea itself is pretty creepy.
Well, you're found a way. He'll be either in his Always Sunny in Philadelphia makeup or his penguin makeup, one or the other.
Oh, please be the penguin.
Okay, I went a different direction, obviously, than you. I'm trying to like bring someone who's gonna like really be the marquee name here, and my first choice, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Now, here's the thing: is Tom Cruise going to take this bit part?
He might. We'll see.
He's like, how many action scenes can I do that I can be doing for no reason? That
He
sort of
gets
thing.
to fake his death in a huge stunt.
Okay. Yeah, maybe he'll take it. And who else do you have? Because I just was with Danny DeVito. I was like, well, that's a home run.
Well, I mean, this is maybe along a similar thinking to you, and that it's a little intense, and that's Mads Mikkelsen.
That's actually pretty good. I actually really like that. I think that's the casting there.
Okay, you want to go with Mads Mikkelsen?
You know what? I think it's in the range of like the role he would play, like a bit part in one of these things. You know, it's a paycheck, so he can go do a real movie, and then he also has a bit of an air of mystery around him. I think Tom Cruise is too distracting.
Fair enough. He will draw the eye too much, and then when you get there, he's only in like 10 minutes of it. You'll be like, that's it.
I'm like, I can't believe they spent $75 million in that stunt for that one scene.
I'm surprised you blew your Danny DeVito already because he's perfect for the next role, the voice of Will's master.
I actually do have two picks for this, and one I think is someone. Well, you'll see. My first one is maybe not the most well-known actor, but Fred Melamed. Do you know him?
I do not.
If you Google him, you'll see really great voice. That's like I think his thing. He's got a real great voice. So I just think that's what I'm thinking. Like you'll know him right away when you hear him.
How old is this man, first of all?
Oh, he's old. 67.
Oh, not so old.
Anyways, Google him. You'll be like, wow, another home run, Jordan.
What a voice.
Yeah, what a Yeah, that's my first one.
All right. Well, I thought we're going to lure him out of retirement, Jordan. Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. He's also dead.
Did he die?
Yeah, he's dead.
When did he die?
Died in 2020, so 3 years ago.
Oh, well, I guess COVID got him and I wasn't paying attention.
Did we get his voice, though? Did he record enough stuff that they could just AI him together for this?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I guess we'll cut him off the list. I didn't realize he had passed away. R.I.P. Sean Connery.
Well, I'll tell you, it's only somewhat in the same vein for my second pick, with a bit of a brogue, but an Irish one, which is I picked Colin Farrell.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, hey, the master is Irish. Why not?
Well, I wanted to lure a different actor out of retirement who may be dead for all I know now. I don't know. Maybe all retired actors are actually dead actors. I'm not sure.
And who's that?
Rick Moranis.
Oh, no, Rick Moranis isn't dead. He's just like semi-retired. I'm just double checking that Rick Moranis isn't dead. There's no way. Rick Moranis is 70.
Well, you know what? I like the idea of Colin Farrell.
Yeah, let's
That's
do it.
what you said, right?
Yeah, Colin Farrell. I think that's pretty good.
He's got a good voice. I think coming off of whatever that was, the Banshees of Inisherin or whatever, he can bring that pathos to the master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for in this YA movie.
And finally, Jordan, who's directing this masterpiece? The first part of 3 to 6 movie series.
Well, the first pick I have, I don't think he would do this, but I think it's just like they're like we're convincing him to do it. He's like, I'll do the story, but I'm gonna mess it up and do the third act first, and then the second act will be in. You have to think about it, and then the first act will happen 3 weeks later. It's gonna be Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting choice. I don't know if this is the kind of material, but it's possible.
Yeah. Well, wait till my second pick.
All right. Well, my first pick, in a similar vein in that it's also like aiming for the stars, as I was like, giant robots, small, tiny people. It felt like a role for Peter Jackson to take on.
You know what? That's pretty good. That's I think that might be the winner. But before we stamp that in anything, I've got my second pick, which is this show. At least this TV show we watched is like slow. It's plodding. It's pedantic. You're waiting for things to happen. Kelly Reichardt.
She's the director of that horse movie, the horse named Dog or something. Power of the Dog.
No.
No, that's Jane Campion.
That's right.
Who's Kelly Reichardt?
She did First Cow was I think the last movie she did, like Wendy and Lucy, Meek's Cut Off. I'm making fun of. I actually really like her stuff. She makes great films. They're so minimalist, and I just thought, hey, let's just go for it if that's the idea. It's gonna be a YA novel where not much is said and people just walk around.
Right. It'll be a little more. What's the term? It'll be a little more realistic. So a lot of realism.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You're gonna really feel the journey.
Well, my other option is a bit out of left field, but I think you might enjoy it. What if we brought on Tom Hanks to direct?
Interesting. And Tom Hanks wants to direct this?
I think Tom Hanks is interested. It's been a little while since he's done his last picture. It's a fun, kids movie, so I think he's got grandkids coming in. He wants to make something for them.
What's the last thing Tom Hanks directed?
I can only think of that one where they dance and sing. What's the right way? We Are the Beatles.
That Thing You Do?
That Thing You Do. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's have Tom Hanks direct this movie.
I think it's fun. I think he'll have a nice time with the kids. He's an actor directing actors.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jordan, let me break it down for you.
Mm-hmm.
Never have we put together a movie I felt so uncertain about in the summer blockbuster season. But honestly, maybe because it's a new IP people aren't used to, we'll get a little juice out of it, unlike that Dial of Destiny.
There you go.
We've got Will Parker, played by Priya Ferguson from Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be a gender swap. That'll be fine. Then we got Henry Parker, another gender swap. Kylie Curran from Doctor Sleep. So this is a high young cast. These are all up and coming.
That's right.
And then of course, Beanpole, aka John Paul, is played by Wynton McGrath from Raised by Wolves. He'll have that big head of hair.
Yeah, you need that.
Of course, Ozymandias will be played by Mads Mikkelsen. He'll bring a little gravitas to the role.
Mm-hmm.
Before getting to break in his cabin for a few months and then come back.
That's right.
And someone who'll come in later just to do some voice work. No one will ever meet him. The master will be played by Colin Farrell.
Yeah. He'll be doing that from his home. He'll be doing it from his couch.
Yeah. His cell phone will be plugged into his ear and he'll be like, all right, I'm ready, I guess. And directing this masterpiece, fresh off, what was that one? The sequel to Winter Express, Christmas Express train movie. He came back and did a second one, but after he did that, he's coming to do Tom Hanks' directing.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is directing. He's like, you know what? Larry Crown didn't do what I wanted, but this one will.
Well, Jordan, I've never been less excited about a movie.
That's because it's not for us. It's for the kids. The kids are excited.
It's for the kids. The kids are going to love it.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Jordan, shall we get into it?
Mm-hmm, let's do it.
Here's the IMDb summary for Season 2, Episode 10, The Cognosk Departs. Avoiding capture by the Blackguard, Will and Fritz make their way to the river under the city to escape back to the White Mountains.
You know what I like about these synopses? That's pretty much all you would really need for the show. You could just have someone say that, and you're like, I don't need to watch the episode because there really not much else happens. That's pretty much it.
That's the gist of it.
That's the gist of it, and that's except they somehow stretch it out to 25 minutes. But it's just that's pretty much it.
I don't know, Jordan. I really liked how the episode started. We cut to Will poking his dead master with a stick. It just opens on him poking a corpse. I'm like, what happened?
It's pretty good. The series should have opened this way, and then we should have done the whole series in flashback.
And that corpse is so gray and translucent, it looks terrible.
Yeah, he really poked it to death.
It was. I was just like, well, we really missed a lot in the one episode we didn't watch in between the last one and this one.
Yeah, he becomes a murderer. No, by the way, they never actually say how he killed him. I'm assuming.
It is unclear.
I'm assuming, and I think you probably also assume, he punched him in the mouth.
Well, that's got to be the only way. It's even unclear whether it was accidental or not. Like, Will never quite confirm what happened there. Will's really... I'm sure the viewer who saw the last episode knows exactly, but like for us who just tuned in, we're like, how brutal was this murder?
Yeah, I know. It's just a scene of him just like punching him, and Fitz is like, please stop, he's already dead.
It appears apparently that one of the other slaves Will works with had given his master, Will I guess was writing a spy diary of all his findings in the city, and so he'd given his master this diary, and so I guess Will was backed into a corner. But there also seems to be a bit of an issue where you remember Coggy the Cognos from that last episode.
Of course.
Apparently, after meeting with Will and learning all Will's secrets, Coggy the Cognos decided he was getting out of Dodge. He was done with this place because, as Will says, Coggy thought the masters were, quote, dumbwits and wanted out.
Yeah, it's not quite clear exactly what happened, but yes, he just has left. And it's a bit of a... like a minor scandal in the world.
Yeah, no, the masters are quite scandalized by this missing thing. Anyway, also apparently in the episode we missed, this gets brought up, also I didn't understand, but at some point in the last episode, there had also been an accident in the slave quarters which caused 6 slaves to die of oxygen deprivation, which I don't know, but felt like Will was somehow also related to. So I was like, I don't know what happened between episode 6 and episode 8, but Will got up to a lot of trouble.
All I'm saying is, I think episode 7's where everything happened. That's the one we didn't watch.
6 dead slaves, a cognost on the run, his master dead. I was starting this episode being like, my hair's blowing back. Nothing usually happens, and now everybody's dead.
Yeah. Hey, I have to say, in this little chamber where we find Will at the beginning in his little sexy boy space outfit, and by the way, doesn't everyone, all the outfits in this, I was laughing as I was watching it. They all look like something like Liberace would have designed for like his like manservants. Like all the outfits are hilarious. Everyone's in shorts and t-shirts. Even the guards, when we see them later, they're in just like in black ones, but they're also shorts and short sleeves. It just makes me laugh. Anyways, that I like
warm.
That you have
it's warm in the city of gold.
You have to wear your like space helmet, but you still have short sleeves and short shorts. Anyways, but in this little pointy like, it almost looks like a mix of like a room and like a catacomb sort of thing. It's all hand wave technology. Do you like that?
I did like it when we see it's like what do you call it? That other Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report. Everything's like he's just moving his hand around, pulling up diagrams. I'm like, oh, look at this computer technology.
Well, I like it because what he is he's like, he walks over to one of these like kind of pointy pillar things. He waves his hand over it. It's like, oh, schematics. He's like, nope, that's not what I want. Then he goes over to waves another one. It's like the door opens. He's like, that's the one. I was like, well, that's pretty good.
That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I did like that too. Anyway, all of this chaos, I guess, has led the slave master into wanting to know what exactly transpired in that meeting Will had with Coggy. So he's just like sending the blackguards out. He's like, find that Will kid. I don't know what happened in there, but we've lost a cognosk. All these slaves are dead. I got to find out what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And Will, of course, he retreats to the city. Everything's falling apart for him. He finds Fritz. And Fritz, of course, has been doing his job, keeping a low profile. Nobody's on to him at all.
And they have like, I like that there's a scene where like Fritz and him like have an argument, but like it was lacking any sort of tension at all. I'm like, I don't know if it was just the performances or the way it was blocked or just the general tone of the show, but it was like they're having an argument, but it was just like a conversation where they were getting louder. I was like, guys, I don't know whose side I'm on, and I don't really care.
I liked it because basically Will's just like, we have to get out of the city right now. I killed my master. Everyone's looking for him. We got to go. And Fritz is like, you idiot. How did you fuck this up? What's going on? And Will's just like, doesn't matter. We're leaving. We're leaving right now. And Fritz is like, all right, great. Well, give me your notes. I'll put them in this plastic bag so we can swim out of here. And Will's like, I maybe left my notes in the dead tentacles of my master.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. And I like that they have to go back. They have to go back to find him. And then so they're like, all right, we got to go back. We got to go get these notes. They go back to the room. Guy's still there dead. And they're like, well, we have to make it look like it wasn't a murder. So is the idea that they're going to make it look like this guy had an accidental overdose of gas balls?
Yeah, that's just it. Well, that was Fritz's first idea that Will wouldn't go through with, because he's like, we just got to run. I don't want to make it look like an OD. And they have to go there anyway. So Fritz's like, come on, now it's time to make it look like an overdose. So they take those gas balls we saw.
Lucas, the implication then that those gas balls, they get high from them? Because I thought they were food.
No. Will specifically says in this episode, he's just like, my master took them to kind of calm himself down. Like they are like a thing that he uses to like, even out. He gets a little anxious, so he like takes a little gas ball and like calms down. I love it. They're just breaking them up and just dropping like the loose, like scattered remains around him. They're like, well, this looks like enough to have killed him.
Yeah, they're making it look like a heroin den.
It's so funny, and it was so great, because that was like Fritz's first idea, and then Fritz was like, yes, we're going to do my idea. Make a fake overdose.
I didn't quite understand the way this was shot, but like they basically, while they do this, more masters show up to kind of like see what happened. And are they sort of stuck in a mid room? Because at one point they're like, oh no, they're here. We got to go to they're like sort of like boy quarters. But there's people getting his old roommates getting investigated. Then behind him are the masters. But where are they? I couldn't quite figure out the geography of it.
It's an elevator there. They got in an elevator to leave the room, so they're kind of watching from it. And by investigated, you mean the other boy slave is getting beaten quite brutally.
Well, they're like, what happened to Will? He's like, I don't know. They're like, I guess we'll just beat you up. And they kind of cut away and they cut back to him. His face just all mangled. I was like, ooh, that wasn't good.
It looked pretty bad.
Yeah. But I do like that the two masters looking over the dead body, just being like, and we get a lot of shots of them having their little like tripod language, and it's not like subtitled or anything, so it's a lot of them like blah 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 blah. Like, oh good, I'm glad this is in there.
I was glad we got to see more tripod masters, because they are all different. They didn't use the same puppet. They're like different puppets for everyone. They're weird. Did
you notice later on, and I think it's in this episode, where one of them has a really pointy head?
Yeah, that was one of these guys for sure. He had a real cone head.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's like a bit of a body mod thing.
Oh, yeah? You think it's a cool... He's just like, this is going to make me look cool at the clubs.
He's like the equivalent of donut heads. Remember donut heads? Remember that was a thing?
No, what are you talking about?
People would inject silicone into their forehead, then put like a dent in the middle, and it looked like you had a big donut in your forehead.
When was this a thing? At what point of time?
This was a thing. Look it up.
Was there one person you saw in like a National Geographic special, or not world? What's it called? Not National Geographic. The world records.
Oh no. Anyways, I don't know. Someone sent me a thing one time. I looked at donut heads.
This 100% sounds like something you would watch, because it's just like, check out these people from a circus, and you're like, this is it.
I'm like, that's not clickbait. Click.
Anyway. On with the show. Fritz has a whole plan here. So they've faked an OD, and now they're going to rush Will to, I guess there's a suicide chamber where old slaves go to end their lives. They get vaporized in this beam of light.
That wasn't, I kind of like that it wasn't clear, because it's sort of spoken implicitly later on, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. I was like, is this an elevator? But it's not. We see a guy go, and he sort of like gives a type of prayer to the tripods, being like, I worship them, blah blah blah, and he gets like vaporized. But again, it might be a little bit of a special effects thing. I wasn't sure if they were getting beamed, but it works out well for the plot, because Will can sort of pretend as a way to throw them off that he has also done this, so he can take off his wrist guard, which by the way he shouldn't be allowed to do, because it's too easy for him to do that. But anyways, he takes it off and puts it beside the thing, so it looks like it vaporized. And when the black guard, who through this whole episode is kind of chasing him like he's Samuel Gerard from The Fugitive, I like that he comes into the room and smells it. And he's like, Yeah, it smells like flesh is being burned here. I was like, well done, Will. Well done.
Well, that's just it. Fritz's whole plan is just like any self-respecting slave, if he had allowed his master to OD on too many gas balls, would be down here in an instant just vaporizing himself. Jordan, did you catch what they call this ritual suicide?
No, I didn't.
I believe the old man, before he goes in, says, time for sweet release.
I didn't hear that at all. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, so apparently this is before you die. It's sweet release. So it feels like it must be pretty good.
It must be pretty good. I think I'll go for one of those.
One sweet release, please.
That's funny.
Anyway, at this point, what they've kind of done is made it Will look like he's killed himself. The master's dead. Fritz is like basically lined up a pretty good cover story to get Will out of there with no one being suspicious. But before he can go, he's like, let me just go check into my office job at the Power Elite. I just need to check in for work so no one's suspicious that I'm on the run.
Oh, and there's one other thing I wanted to mention. I don't know why it tickled me, but when the blackguard and their little boy shorts are going around trying to investigate, they go to a bar at one point, and the bar is called the Pink Parrot.
Oh, yeah, that was a weird cutaway where there's like the slaves have a nightclub. Yeah. I'm like, what is happening at this nightclub?
A lot of this, I actually think, there's a little bit of a problem with the more they build on the world, I think the less it makes sense. And in the next episode, when we talk about the circus, I think it makes the whole capping and stuff not quite work as well. And this sort of thing of like, I understand it's sort of like, bread and circus, quite literally of like, they have things to do and stuff. But I'm like, they should all be capped and stuff. So they shouldn't have those same desires and wants and needs in the same sort of way. So I don't know if it quite works, but it was a funny thing regardless to see a slave nightclub called the Pink Parrot.
Yeah, it was a very odd cutaway. I wonder if maybe in another episode they spent more time there, but I was just like, I don't know what I'm seeing, and we're moving on, so it's okay.
Fair enough.
But yes, Fritz also covers his tracks by like coming to start his shift, and he goes back and gets Will, and they sort of hit the road. They're on the run, and it's a little odd because the blackguard thinks Will's dead, but now, like, I guess what it is, remember that episode we saw that one blackguard guy who was really mad that Fritz didn't pick him, he picked the Power Elite. It seems like that one guy has been out to get Fritz because he's like interviewing his coworkers, and his coworkers are like, he doesn't have any talent, I don't know why he's here.
That's right. That's pretty good.
And they like spot them as they're running over some like catwalks. So there's like a bit of a chase where these three blackguard are chasing Fritz down, but Will and Fritz get the drop on them when they get to this like underground lake. And at first I was just like, oh, they're just throwing these guys into the lake so they can escape. But then Fritz is just like, Will, I'm going to stay here. I've got a good job with a pension. I'm not leaving the City of Gold. I'm going to stay at my job. And I was like, oh, did they just kill those three men?
Oh, they killed him. I think they killed him, yeah.
Because Fritz is just like, no one suspects me of anything. I'm way better at being a spy than you. So I'm going to send you back with the information of the White Mountains, and I'm going to stay here at my job. And I was just like, oh, so they killed those men.
Yeah, and I actually think Fitz is right. I think I like him better than the other characters, despite whatever he's trying to do. Maybe a German accent or something that doesn't work. It makes sense. It's like, well, if both of them leave, it's going to ruin it for everyone because they know there's a conspiracy now. If just Will leaves, it looks like what it was that he either killed himself or he did something bad and has tried to escape. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. It was a one-person sort of conspiracy. But I did like, one, how bad the blocking was of the fight, how bad the stunt action was. It was just funny because like when Will knocks out a guy from behind, it's fine. But later on, he has to like grab a guy and throw him over like the barricade so he goes into the water, and it's like the guy's probably double his weight, and there's like no weight to the guy. He just like tosses him. I was like, all right, sure, why not?
No, it's really tough because they are 13-year-olds fighting grown men.
Yeah, and it's just a funny thing where like it really would have, I think, probably been in the show's interest to add that little bit of like realism for a little tension of like, it should be difficult for him to attack these guys. You know what I mean? Like there should be more of a struggle, but there needs to be more time of them going and checking on the master 45 times. So they needed to get that in the show first.
Well, it's all over here because Fritz is going to stay. He's going to keep with his job, and old Will's going to hop into that lake and use his little rebreather, his little helmet. He's going to swim through an underground cave and go back and bring information to the White Mountain. That's where the episode ends. This is sort of the end of episode 10, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
So here is the IMDb summary for Season 2, Episode 12, The Forest of Death.
Best title so far.
First, you should teach poor Gino here how to throw. And when they respect his skill enough, someone might volunteer.
What the slut? Volunteer?
Perhaps even me. On one condition. He must throw at least 100 consecutive knives into the practice board without a single touch on the human shape.
Almost captured by the Black Guard, Will and Beanpole are hidden by a traveling circus. After finding out the leader is going to betray them to the tripods, Will convinces the other kids working there to escape with him to the White Mountains. And that was courtesy of Rebecca. Thanks, Rebecca.
That's funny. It's like Rebecca mixed with Chewbacca. I like it. So I like it. This is the final episode. And things have changed because we're not going to see Fitz anymore. He's got his good pension job. We're back to Beanpole somehow. We don't know where that happened or
one episode has passed between these two episodes, and so much has changed that I'm like, it feels like I'm watching a different season of the show.
Yeah, I've actually decided the show is better with episodes missing because it just feels like we jump over a bunch of stuff, and you're like, sure, now it's them, Beanpole and Will. They're hiding in a traveling circus. I was like,
well, as I said, we left Will. He was going to escape. He's going to like come out of a sewer duct just outside the Golden City, where Beanpole was standing there the whole time for all these months just waiting, apparently.
I'm assuming, well, he clearly wasn't in the White Mountains because that's the whole point of this journey. So yeah, he was doing something near the city, I guess.
He lost the tripod games and then he just like panhandled for a few months.
Yeah, he couldn't get himself a slave job.
And yeah, apparently in that episode, also to escape the blackguards who were searching for Will, they joined a traveling circus, and they were able to convince the man who runs the circus, who we know is evil because he's like maniacal and constantly whipping children with a whip. But they convinced him to help because they know where a hidden treasure is they're going to give him. I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Well, a couple things I want to talk about first. Does the whole idea of a circus in this world make sense? Because I didn't think it did, you know?
We are missing, some pieces here. Because I was also just like, there's just a traveling circus? Because this guy explains, his name's Ali Pasha. I think it might be a little racist, hard to say. But he apparently travels across different countries in Europe and abducts children to perform in his circus. Children he doesn't train, he just whips them until they do a circus act. And this man, he himself does not appear to be capped, but he also appears to be like in league with the Blackguard and also the tripods. Yeah. So I think the implication is that like there's this idea that everyone's capped, but there seems to be a fairly it's a very corruptible system, it seems like to me.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. I mean, obviously there's a bit of like an Oliver Twist Fagin thing going on here with the children doing whatever bad nefarious things through this guy, but even the idea though of the circus, like, okay, let's say he's not capped and because he's paid off the guard or whatever, so he has his whatever creativity or his integrity or his inspiration or whatever it is that the capping takes away because it's unclear. But like, don't you think that with capping isn't the idea that you're just sort of like a bit of a drone as an adult, or you sort of, or at least very focused on like your task? That's what they want you. They want you pliable. They want you sort of boring. But would you even need entertainment as a cat person? So like, would you go see a circus? Isn't that sort of frivolous and pointless in your everyday life?
It is a good question. I also had the same question. I'm like, maybe cat people, I mean, it's a circus. People love a circus. Maybe they're just saying circuses are the lowest common entertainment denominator.
Perhaps that's it. It was one of those things where I just kept thinking, you know, like a lot of these sort of like dystopian things, if you get into it too much and you start expanding it too much, the core idea maybe doesn't hold up as well. But regardless, the whole point is
it raised questions. I agree.
It raised questions. But yes, we missed that apparently they know where gold is, Will and Beanpole, and I don't know if that's real or it's just one of their like lies they use to get into something.
Yeah, I have no idea. I was also just like, now there's also buried treasure. I'm not going to worry too much about that either. But yeah, they're in a circus for some reason, a traveling circus full of children. Will is really standing up for the kids. He doesn't think it's fair how Allie's always whipping them with a like bullwhip. He doesn't think that's very nice. At some point, one of the kids is practicing to be a knife thrower and he's not very good. So Will steps in. He's just like, all do the dangerous knife throwing stunt if he can throw those knives properly 100 times. And then we like cut to what feels like 5 minutes later, but I think it's supposed to be weeks later because they've like traveled from the Golden City to the city of Geneva.
That's right. Yeah, and I like it. The kids, like, Will's basically, like, taking his stands, you know, like, I'm going to do it. I'm Spartacus sort of thing. And then, like, the kid comes by and he's like, hey, man, I just did it. I got 100 in a row. And Will's like, oh, you're calling me on it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's bizarre. And we'll end up seeing the full circus act. We'll get to see the entire circus happen. They're performing it for the Blackguard. And we'll get to see Will do the role of the man who gets knives thrown at him. And I don't know. I had to go back and watch this 3 or 4 times, Jordan. You may have just like, your eyes may have glazed over. But did you watch the scene where they throw the knives at Will?
Yes, I did.
Did you watch the parts? The climax of the throwing of knives is that they throw a knife at an apple that's on Will's head.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice there appeared to be no cut in that scene? And that the actor playing Will had to duck very suddenly so the knife didn't hit him square in the forehead.
I did notice the same thing. Now, I think that is what actually happened, is that I don't think it would have hit him in the forehead, but I think it probably would have come very close, is that he had to duck down probably an inch or so, and that thing hit square in the square of the apple. Now, again, was it an actual sharp knife? Did it actually cut that apple? Was it a pre-cut apple? I don't know, but it did appear to be like very close to an actual horrific accident on set.
The look of that actor's face in the moments before that knife strikes is one of terror as he drops half an inch so that the knife does not hit him in the head but travels over him into the apple, which then splits in half. And I was just like, I don't know how this was faked.
The reason I really noticed it was because really in the scene in World, he shouldn't move at all, right? That should be the whole point, is that he's brave, and even though he's doing something he doesn't want to do, the guy throws the knife at the apple. He doesn't move. But you're right, the actor does actually move, and it's almost like they're like, that's the take. That's the only take we're going to get. We're not doing that again.
Yeah, I mean, it works. Like, it hits the apple. It looks like it hits the apple, goes right into the board behind his head. But I was watching him just like, I was like, wait, did he just duck half an inch? And I like rolled it back, and I'm like, oh my God, he looks terrified.
Yeah, I have to say, though, and you mentioned it just a moment ago, it is hilarious and so unfitting with this show that we watch like an entire circus. I'm like, guys, there's actual tension built in here that these kids are hiding. They have to travel across the world. He's going to try to create a revolt with these kids. They have to make it to the White Mountain. They have the tripods. There's tripods after them. There's all this like tension, and then we spend like 15 minutes watching like people on stilts. I'm like, guys, we don't need to just say it's a circus. I don't need to see any of it.
Well, what has happened here is the circus has come to Geneva. Will and Beanpole have come along because Geneva is close to the White Mountains, so they're just planning to get here and then leave and get to the White Mountains. Mm-hmm. But of course, they've come to feel for these circus kids who are just like under the like whip of this Allie character who runs the circus. And at the last show, a tripod has shown up to the circus, and the crowd is just black guards. And basically, in talking to Allie, because Allie treats Will and Beanpole kind of as equals because they're like going to give him that treasure. He tells them, he's like, yeah, what happens after today's show is what happens on all of these things. I travel to countries picking up stray children. I bring them here, and then I get them capped, and I sell them to the Black Guard as slaves. And I was like, holy shit, that's dark.
Well, I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, so there's multiple ways you could become a slave. You can win the games and become a slave, or you can get sold and become a slave. Basically, no matter what, you're ending up a slave.
Yeah, but this time you're not a slave to the masters, like the Black Guard, and they're like bidding on the children. I'm like, I don't like any of this.
Yeah. The Black Guard do seem especially creepy. I don't know if it's the outfits or whatever, the little funny little hats, but they do seem like creepy villains.
Yeah. So Will takes all the circus kids aside. He explains, is like, hey, this is the end of the line for you. If you don't come with me to the White Mountains, you're getting sold into slavery by Allie. Also, by the way, as long as I've got you in the room together, something I learned in the Golden City was that the tripods are sending a terraformer from their homeworld of Tryon. It'll be here in 3 years, and they'll be changing the atmosphere of Earth into tripod air. So we only have 3 years anyway. You might as well come with me. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what happened, Will?
Yeah, the stakes have been raised. So it's not only now that they're going to take your ability to paint with capping. it's now going to be that you can't breathe either. So you might
Yeah,
as well.
full
Like, it's like,
terraformers coming. Hard science fiction's about to happen.
like I would even mention the capping at that point. If you can't breathe air, it's like, guys, you're not gonna breathe air, so like you're gonna come with me.
Yeah, I think it's best to come with me to the Freeman. And anyway, all the kids agree. They sneak off in the middle of the night. There's like a escape sequence where they run into the woods, and then for some reason, like a whole bunch of tripods are in the woods, and they just start like firing wildly at children in the woods. It's all in the dark. It's like a long action sequence.
Again, and I know there's some budgetary restraints, but I do think it would have helped the show and added a little bit of tension to if you always see tripods. Like there are presents that are there are presents that are always around. There's this implicit fear that just having them there, just the image, and the idea that this journey is perilous because not only you're a kid going across the world essentially with no resources, but there's these forces that are stopping you. And I thought that was a good scene of them going through the forest and they get chased because who knows if the tripods even know who they are. They just like, these kids, let's just start shooting them. And I thought it was pretty good. And I just think they could have leaned into stuff like that and given the feeling of how scary the world is, opposed to, again, watching acrobats for 10 minutes.
You don't want to see that kid in that stilts do that little dance?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, we all do, but like, maybe not so long.
At any rate, they escape the tripods. They wake up the next morning and they've arrived in the White Mountains. It's great. They head off to the Freeman hideout. And what they discover is that apparently Cousin Henry is not quite the defensive tactician that Julius thought he was.
I didn't even think of that.
Because the hideout of the Freeman is just smoldering ruins, and it just like it ends on a cliffhanger of like a real down note.
Yeah, I did like that it was a down note to finish on. But yes, they go there, everything's destroyed. But it's funny, I hadn't thought about how Henry, maybe putting a 13-year-old in charge of the defenses maybe wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah, maybe that plan backfired.
Maybe he should have gone into the javelin throw.
But that's how it ends. That's the end of all the tripods. There was a third season planned, but it got canceled. So the tripods just ends on a real down note right at the end. It's like, I guess you're getting terraformed. Sorry.
Yeah, I understand that's probably not how the books ended, not how they wanted the series to end, but I think there is something kind of interesting about how depressing a note is and the futility of them fighting against a force maybe they could never win. I think there's something kind of interesting about that.
Well, Jordan, do you want to get into rating this?
I think we should, yeah.
How did you feel about the Cognosk departs?
We talk about it sometimes. I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. But then I remember having to watch it, and it's like longest 25 minutes of my life. Honestly, the parts I like are more me thinking about stuff and how it could be more interesting. I can't give this more than a 5.5. I'm sorry.
5.5. I liked it. I loved when he started it by poking a corpse with a stick. I was just already like, what is happening? This is insane. I don't know. I love all the stuff that happens in the Golden City. We got to see like those masters ride around in their glowing triangles a bit. There's a lot of stuff I enjoy about this. I'm still giving it a 7.
Man, you always give it a 7.
And then the Forest of Death.
I like this episode a little better, which is weird. I don't know why I liked it better because the circus was annoying, but I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think mostly because of the bummer ending, and I like thinking that's how it ends. Just the real downer of like, well, you're never going to win, folks.
I'm going to drop down to a 6 for this one. I think it's just, it was very disconcerting to have come, like we watch an episode where in the Golden City, there's aliens everywhere. It's like life or death. They're running to escape with this information. Cut to, they've joined a circus. And even for me, I was just like, I don't understand how in these 2 episodes, we could have shifted gears this hard.
Maybe at the beginning of the episode when he's escaping the Golden City, he's like, hey, look, there's a circus over there. And then you're like, oh, that's where he got the idea.
Yeah, he runs over there. Beanpole's in line buying a ticket. He's like, Beanpole.
Beanpole's getting popcorn.
But that's it. That's how old Tripods end. So I guess we should probably find out what the final rating for this is, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, I can pretty much guess what the rating's going to be because you're all your 7, so it's going to be like a 6 or something like that. But the thing I found is that no matter how good it could have ended, at least for me, it as a whole, it wouldn't have redeemed the sort of general mediocrity of the show. And that's kind of how I feel. It was just like a mediocre show. Sorry.
It's
Sorry,
so
everyone.
funny you find it so mediocre. I actually found it to be quite an entertainment. I quite enjoyed it.
I mean, compared to all the other book adaptations that we watched, from like Lathe of Heaven to the Triffids to the Vonnegut one, any of these. I just think this is the worst of all the adaptations. Don't you?
No, I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, maybe I'm being more forgiving because I understand it's for children, and I'm like trying to watch it as if I was like 8 years old and this were on TV at Saturday morning. I would have loved this show as an 8-year-old. It would have just been great. I would have been so excited to come back next week to find out what crazy adventure they got up to next.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe I just wanted more crazy adventures. Unless,
You'd like to see something a little more complex. You'd like to see something with a little more, not adult necessarily, but you'd like a little more grown-up version of it.
I think, and you know what, that might be the disconnect between the two of us. And I think you make a valid point. If you're watching this as a kid, it's a very different show, and perhaps it's not entirely fair. My criticisms of it and sort of the simplicity of some of these things. But that being said, as a whole, I'm like, it's fine. But perhaps it is. Maybe it's just the problem of being an adult. I'm not the age of Colton, Speed Boy, whatever these hip new actors are.
You want to hear our series average for the tripods, Jordan?
Yeah, let's do it.
It is 6.59.
I have to say, it's got to be one of our higher series.
I mean, I think overall average-wise, it's falling right in the middle of all the kind of shows we watch.
Well, compared to all the ones that we use the escape pod, it's much higher.
That's true. That is true. But what do you think, Jordan? I'm going to guess you're going to say not recommending.
No, I don't think I could recommend this, honestly. I just don't. It's too... I think there's a cool idea. I think there's a lot of really interesting little set pieces and things you can move around. I just don't think this is the adaptation that is the one I would recommend to people. I can't wait for Disney to take this and really give it some wings,
Great. Really turn it into some sort of Pinocchio.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I will say, I think if you go in with the right mindset and understand kind of you're going to go in and watch a children's show from the 80s, I think you'll be doing better than a lot of the levels of children's shows of the 80s. It's aiming for something more than most kids shows do, and I think that's worthy of some sort of praise.
I think that's fair.
But that wraps it up for our coverage of the tripod. So if you, as a listener, if you're like, I'm a tripod head, I love all these episodes, I really wish you'd watch that episode where the circus dropped by Berlin for a day and they performed for some sort of township where capping happened, or I don't know, whatever happened in the episodes we missed. You can get us to watch it by giving to bonus episodes for charity. We have a little initiative where we have a selection of charities on our website that were selected by past guests. You can find that at continuumdrag.podbean.com. And if you do a little donation to charity, we'll go back and watch an episode that we've skipped because we're watching a best of, like Tripods, or if we've taken the escape pod from a show, like, say, what's a show we've skipped through? Misfits of Science, perhaps. If there's a show you're just like, I would love to go back and watch that episode you didn't watch. It'd be fun to have a little bonus episode about it. This is a way for you to do that. You give a little money to charity. Let us know. Send us a receipt. We'll go back. We'll watch an episode of your choosing. All the details, like I said, are on the website, continuedrag.podbean.com. You can also find information, links to all that on our social media. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to email us at continuumdrag@gmail.com. And then in the meantime, you'll, of course, be able to watch clips from the tripods. We'll have tripod attacks. We'll have circuses. We'll have knives being thrown at a child actor's head. He barely survives. That'll all be there.
Yeah, that clip of the apple, that's the best one you got.
Yeah. You can see the terror in a small child's face. That you can find at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. At Continuum Drag is the handle in all those locations. But that wraps it up. So, listener, thank you for joining us for the tripods. And Jordan, I'll see you next week.
See you then.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario, and Seoul, South Korea. Theme music by James Rick Seidler. Produced by Jordan Delick and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Yunes.